Yo, 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 yo. What is up? Sorry, I am 4 minutes late. Just dropped my box of Ned Rig hooks on the ground and they all poured out. So, my bad for being a few minutes late. What is going on, guys? Hope you're having a great night. I am going to talk to you about Ned Rig baits tonight. And more so than me just talking to you, I hope this is a conversation back and forth. I hope that we can chat together about this. So I'm going to hop over on Instagram right now, start the live there so that we can keep this as interactive as possible. And bear with me for 1 minute while I do that. Looks like a couple people have already jumped in and jumped back out over on YouTube. Whoever you are in here, give me a thumbs up. Let me know you're here. Leave a comment in the comment section. Let's chat. This is not just me presenting to you, but rather, hopefully, a conversation. What's up, Jay Boogie? Yeah, I'm calling out the lurkers, man. People just jumping in here because they either got a notification or somehow saw that I was live, jumped in and jumped right back out. So anyway, I am going to set my screen for Instagram right over here. Hopefully, this isn't too much out of the way. Yeah, that's not ideal. Maybe I'll, what's up, guys? What's up? What's up? I don't know if this is going to be ideal in terms of an angle. Yo. Stream to Twitch? No, I am just on Instagram and here on YouTube. So thanks for being here on YouTube. The quality is a little bit lower than it is over on Instagram. Obviously, I'm using my laptop on YouTube just because I don't yet have 1,000 followers or subscribers, rather. Once you do, you can stream live on your phone and other devices. So hopefully we'll be there in about a month, especially once I do my February giveaway. So how's the volume, Jay Boogie, over on YouTube? What's up, everybody on Instagram? Looks like Dallin is the only one in here right now. How are you doing tonight, man? So, if you're here on YouTube, there's 4 or 5 of you. Hit that thumbs up button for me and leave a comment on the side. Let me know that you're here. We're going to talk about like 15 different Ned Rig baits tonight and break down when and why I use each one and why I recommend that you use them. As if you're watching on YouTube, you'd already know that the title of this video is Ned Rig baits and how the market is flooding. And hey, thanks, Jamal. Appreciate the compliment. Yeah, I've got a decent collection going. So Z-Man, Kitech, Strike King are some of my favorite brands and ones that you can get on discounttackle.com, which I'm going to recommend you get the majority of these baits from once we get around to talking about them. What's up, Brian? So, without any further ado, let's you guys want to start with Z-Man baits, or do you want to start with non-Z-Man baits? I've got like 7 from Z-Man and like 8 not from Z-Man. I'll let you guys make that call. First person to leave a comment on YouTube or Instagram, let me know what you want to see, what you want to talk about first. Aaron's Outdoor, thank you, man. Yeah, it should be about a month. I'm at about a rate of 1,000 a month, or a 100 a month right now. Not Z-Man, says Aaron. Okay. Jamal, none. Oh, Z-Man. Oh, Z-Man, that's 3 in a row, Z-Man. Okay. Sorry, Aaron, you just got trumped. Everyone wants to see Z-Man first, so that's what we're going to do. You know, most of you guys have probably seen my video on the Finesse TRD and how to rig it. That's like my most popular video on YouTube. It is still the most popular Ned Rig bait on the market, and for good reason. Okay, I've got it, as you can see, in like 6 different colors here, and let's talk about it first. So, Finesse TRD, or the turd as some people would call it, is just a 2 3/4 inch soft plastic stick bait, and there's nothing really to note about the shape. It is made from elaztech, as are all of these Z-Man baits that we're going to talk about. But what makes it unique is its dead action. It's a do-nothing bait, and that is kind of the point of the Ned Rig. Ned Kehde, who's the originator of the technique, also known as the Midwest Finesse Rig, lives out in Kansas, and started this by throwing it on the Strike King Zero, which not sure if you're familiar with this bait, but it is just a Senko style bait made by Strike King. They licensed the technology for elaztech from Z-Man and put this bait out, I don't know how long ago, 10 years or so. And once it was released, Ned and some of his buddies out in Kansas took the Zero and the Z-Man Zinkers, which is their Senko style bait that is a sinking, not floating bait. It's got salt in it. And they would chop it in half and rig it on a lightweight mushroom style jig head, and throw it on light line, on light spinning tackle. And their goal is to catch 100 fish in an hour, which is absolutely insane to think about. 25 fish an hour. They go out on 4-hour fishing excursions, and the goal is to catch 100 fish in an outing. So Ned is meticulous about his details. He'll go out with a clicker and a journal, and he will write down the details about when and where he caught every single fish that he caught. So he's got logs showing that he catches some 5,000 or 6,000 fish a year, and he knows exactly when, where, on what baits, and how he was fishing it. So he's got like 6 different retrieves of how he fishes this style bait right here. And this is, again, the Z-Man Finesse TRD, which is just a plain, almost 3-inch, do-nothing bait. So it is meant to sit flat on bottom or drift around. Drag it, hop it, sometimes swim it. But because you're supposed to use it on a lightweight jig head, it is a no-feel technique. So I end up using a 1/10 ounce jig head the majority of the time, which is kind of a middle ground when it comes to weight these days. You can find Ned Rig heads ranging from as heavy as 1/5 or 1/6 ounce from Z-Man all the way down to 1/20th of an ounce. And I like to throw the lighter weights, the 1/20th, 1/15th, and 1/10 ounce. A lot of people these days are throwing the heaviest weights possible, 1/5, 1/6, and now brands are coming out with even heavier Ned Rig heads, especially now that they're being made in tungsten. So pay attention. It is a no-feel, do-nothing technique. It is not necessarily meant to sit on bottom. And so the lighter the weight, the better, according to Ned. And so keep that in mind. Now, the Finesse TRD is the most basic of the ones that we're going to talk about. Let's stay kind of in similar. This is not necessarily. No. If you're on YouTube, leave me a comment. Let me know that I'm still here. My connection just dipped out and jumped back in. Leave me a comment on YouTube and let me know that you're still here. Because everybody seems to just be listening and not saying stuff or asking questions. So leave a comment and let me know that you can hear me and that the connection is decent on your end. ER, you should donate. What should I donate, man? I do donate and give away baits on a monthly basis. If you haven't been entering my giveaways, what do you think I should be donating? If you guys want to donate money to me, you're welcome to. Yo, YouTubers, do you hear me? Am I still live? Is my connection okay? Can you hear me? This next bait here is called the Z-Man TRD MinnowZ. And as you can tell, this little guy has a narrow tail. This was made more as a drop shot bait. You should donate your favorite bait. Ryan, you're on both platforms. What do you mean they're not the same? Obviously, the quality is going to be better on Instagram than it is on YouTube, but how do you mean that they're different? So the TRD MinnowZ has a little bit of a tail on it. It's made to be more of a drop shot bait that you nose hook, and it has 0 salt in it. So it is a super high floating bait, even more so than the Finesse TRD, and it's a little bit narrower in profile. Not sure if you can tell that with them side by side, but Bowling 448, which is a good date to catch bass in the wintertime? What do you mean by that, man? If you've got open water, you can catch bass anytime. And the Ned Rig is a good bait to throw in the wintertime when the fish are lethargic. YouTube is behind, says Ryan. Okay. I believe you, but that's probably annoying on your end if you're watching both platforms. So I don't blame you if you want to watch one over the other. I set up this angle on YouTube so it's a little bit more framed properly around my wall. I can't do that with the Instagram platform. It is a long ways as opposed to sideways orientation, and I'm not going to change that. So the frame is not ideal, but anyway, we got 5 people in on Instagram, 10 people on YouTube. So thanks for watching, guys. If you haven't already, hit that thumbs up button for me. Hi, good morning, says FSJ. Good morning. It is good evening from here in the States. Where are you from, man? You say good morning. I wonder where you're living. ER says, what's the best bait to use in the summer? Dude, these are kind of random questions and off topic. Also depends on what time of year it is. But in the summertime, I like to fish early morning and late night and throw top water. So sometimes it's going to be a frog. Sometimes it's going to be a whopper plopper or a walking bait or a rat. Really like to throw rats at nighttime. Anyway, so that is 2 baits. We've got the Finesse TRD. We've got the TRD MinnowZ. While we're kind of also on the same profile, same topic, let's talk about the Ticklers. TRD Ticklers. You're from Kuwait. Awesome, man. Thanks for tuning in. What time is it right now in the morning? Bowling says, which bait is good for the winter time? What do you use in the winter when you go fishing? Unfortunately, I live here in Colorado, which is not unfortunate, but we've got ice, and so I don't go fishing for bass in the wintertime. What up, Smackin' Bass? So in the wintertime, I go fly fishing for trout, and so I'm throwing bugs on a fly rod and targeting trout more than anything. I will sometimes throw a spinning rod and throw inline spinners or blade baits, things like that, but wintertime is usually my off season when it comes to bass fishing. So next bait here is the TRD Ticklers. This was a new bait released a year ago at the 2019 Bassmaster Classic. And this essentially is a downsized version of the Z-Man hula sticks, which has been a really popular bait for a number of years now. And instead of, the hula sticks is, I think, a 4-inch bait. The TRD Ticklers is a 2 3/4-inch standard TRD size, Ned Rig size bait. So that includes these 4 tentacles on top. So this is a rather small profile bait. You would have seen this in the picture to my YouTube video showing the TRD Ticklers. And this is a absolute killer bait. I'm going to show you the way that I like to rig it best, and that is on a lifted jigs Ned EWG. This is a weedless hook. What you do is just come in the butt, just a sliver, well, I should say in the head, in the nose of the bait. Just a sliver is all you're going to rig. Bring it out, line it up, and come out the back. And I will expose it the majority of the time. But this weedless, stand-up, mushroom-style jig head, in my opinion, is the best presentation in 2020 for the Ned Rig. A bunch of companies are coming out with this style head. Unfortunately, Lifted Jigs does not have a patent on this one. So other companies are coming out with it. Owner Hooks is one of the best companies, period. And they make the Owner Blockhead jig head, which I thought I had one pulled out here, but looks like I don't. Let me pull one out for you. I've only got this in the absolute minuscule size. This is a 1/32 ounce, and it does have a wire keeper and a super sharp hook on it like you would expect from Owner. So they're coming out with weedless versions. They do have one that's been out for a minute, and I've got it. That is the let's see here. Where you at, bro? That is the Owner Head Finesse football head. Show you what this one looks like. As you can see, it is that EWG style hook, but it's got a Finesse football head on it as opposed to a round ball. And so they're coming out with the round head shortly here, or I guess they already did come out with it, but it's just not in stock yet on Tackle Warehouse. Maybe it is by now. If anybody knows that, correct me if I'm wrong. But anyway, that's going to be a killer jig head once it's out. I hate to do lifted jigs dirty like that because I think theirs is still the best. I don't even know where I just freaking put that bait, unfortunately. But you saw me rig that up. Here's the head one more time. Lifted Jigs Ned EWG is what it's called. You can get these on Tackle Warehouse. And actually a bunch of other retailers as of just recently. they're starting to expand and are having a lot of success. So Ryan is asking, can you rig it on a mushroom head like that? What do you mean? The ticklers? On a standard mushroom head? Of course. I mean, why couldn't you? Voila. TRD Ticklers is one of my favorite Ned Rig baits going into 2020. And I'll tell you, it has mostly to do with the profile, that it is a shorter, stubbier bait. It's a little bit fatter in the nose section than the Finesse TRD, and it has those tentacles on top, so you get a little bit more action out of it than you get out of the Finesse TRD when you're dead sticking it or when it's floating around. Those tentacles are going to do something for you. Ryan, Texas rig, what do you mean, man? Can you rig it on a mushroom head? Texas rig. On a standard TRD head, on a I'm not quite sure what you mean, but if I am understanding you correctly, you're asking, can you Texas rig it on a standard Finesse ShroomZ jig head? You mean like shaky head style? Like that? Can you? Yes. Would I recommend it? Absolutely not. That is why certain heads, like the lifted jigs, Ned EWG, and Z-Man makes one. You guys probably know about this. It's called the Finesse Bullets. It does have a bullet weight head fixed to it, and I find it better for certain presentations, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute when we get to those baits. But no, I think each bait has kind of an ideal way of being rigged. As you can tell, I've got the Finesse TRD here rigged on a weedless Finesse ShroomZ jig head. So it's got the weed guard on it. This is a wire weed guard. It's got 2 wires coming off the front, and it does a reasonably good job at keeping the bait weedless. Of course, it's not the same as these EWG style hooks. So that said, you don't have to set it nearly as hard, but the only way that I'd maybe consider doing what you're talking about, Ryan, is using the upsized head called the Z-Man Power Finesse ShroomZ. Okay, this is a much bigger hook than the Finesse ShroomZ. Take a look at this. Can you see that? Much longer hook, much stouter hook. The Ned Rig, a 3-inch bait, is designed to go on. This is a size 1 hook on the Finesse ShroomZ jig head, and that is a lot bigger of a hook than Ned Kehde himself uses. He uses size 4, even size 6 hooks. So going up to the Power Finesse ShroomZ jig head is a bit excessive. This head was designed for the big TRD bait, which is a 4-inch bait. But let me just show you what it looks like rigging, like you mentioned, on, say, the Finesse TRD with the Power Finesse ShroomZ head rigged Texas rig. So first of all, you can see it's going to take up way too much of the bait, but let's just, for the sake of entertainment, show you what it will look like. Again, we're going to rig this like a shaky head. Golly, it doesn't even want to go on straight. It's going to look butt ugly every single time. And it's going to be at an angle, if you see that. So when it sits on bottom, it's not going to stand up straight. It's going to look a little funny. Now, is that the most important thing? Probably not, but honestly, I don't think that's the deal. I don't think that's the way to do it. Now, we talked about a bait last night in the Z-Man Fatties, which is a 5-inch bait that is made to be like a shaky head style bait. And I've seen Brian Latimer rig it on this Power Finesse ShroomZ head like a shaky head. And I've actually done that myself too. So there are some baits where that can work, what you're talking about, but definitely not on the Ned Rig. It would be more of a shaky head type of presentation. So hopefully that answers your question. Sorry to everybody else for rambling just a little bit there. So that is 3 baits now. Let's move on from the ticklers and talk about another one. How about the TRD Tubes? This is a 2 3/4 inch tube bait. Unlike ticklers, this guy has like 10 tentacles on bottom, more like a standard tube bait would have. And so as it's floating through the water, it's going to have a lot more action on it. The ticklers and the hula sticks and the bang sticks are all designed the same way and just have 4 little tentacles on top. The TRD Tubes has a bunch more skinnier strands. So it is definitely a different presentation. It has a solid head and a hollowed out body. So one thing that I like to do with this guy, if I can quickly dig up a rattle for you, I'll show you. I got one here. This is my favorite way to rig the TRD Tubes. Now, I've got the jig head that I just showed you guys a minute ago. This is the owner blockhead in a 1/32 ounce. I've got it rigged inside the head of this tube. So it is shoved up in there, pulled out the line tie, and the hook is coming out the back of the tube. Then what you can do, since it is hollowed out, is shove this rattle into the bait, and it will literally just sit either below or on top of the shank of the hook. I prefer to have it below most of the time because it is going to affect the way that this guy looks just a little bit. So as you can see, it's not perfectly straight. It does change the shape of this a little bit, but you can hear that. As you move this bait in the water and it hits the bottom and it's scooting around, it's going to have a little bit of noise. So the TRD Tubes, a little bit of extra action, a little bit of extra sound. You could also put some scent inside the bait if you wanted to. The Tubes is just a little bit more versatile than the ticklers. And for that reason, I really like it. It's a sleeper bait that not a lot of people talk about, and I had a ton of success on last season. So I try not to talk about it too much. Z-Man makes a standard tube bait as well, called the Easy Tubes, and it's a 4-inch. And I like to rig it the same way. I'll actually throw that Finesse football jig head from owner that I was talking about, put the head inside, and then rig it stupid tube style, weedless, and throw a rattle in there. and that's an absolute killer. But this is a 2/0 hook on this jig, so too big to rig on the TRD tubes itself. So that is 4 out of the 7 that we're going to talk about. Now we're going to move on to the creature and cross style Ned Rig baits. And this gets a little bit away from what the standard Ned Rig is. Ryan's asking if it stands up. Yes, all of these baits will stand up. Because they're made by Z-Man, they've got the elaztech and a very high buoyancy. They float, every single one of them. So again, the lighter the weight, the better. If you're using a heavier weight and if you're dragging it more than hopping it, it may or may not want to come float at an angle as opposed to straight up and down. Conservative Fisherman is asking, do you fish tournaments? No, I don't. Not yet. Not at this point. So is that something I might do in the future? Sure. But no, I just fish for fun at this point. I've got 2 young daughters and a busy work schedule. So I fish when I can. I get out usually early morning or late night, depending on the time of year. Not able to go out all day, especially multiple days in a row most of the time. You guys are quiet over on YouTube, but there's still 7 or 8 of you in here. Leave a comment for me. Let me know that you can still hear me all right. Let me know what you think about some of these baits that I'm showing you. Let's start old and go new from there. We're going to start with the TRD HogZ. Ashley Morrison. What is up, Ash? Hope you're doing well. What are you doing? Snuggling with your baby? Or are you just hanging out late night? Or are you chilling? Is Jeff there too? Leave me a comment, Ash. All right, so the TRD HogZ is a Ned Rig size bait, 2.75 inches, as have been all of these except for the TRD MinnowZ that I just mentioned a minute ago. As you can see, this guy has some tentacles coming off the side and off the end. So it's meant to be somewhere between a creature and a crawl style bait. I've got one here just rigged on like a worm hook, EWG style hook with a screw lock on it, made by owner. And what I will do is Texas rig this with as light of a bullet weight as I can find, like a 1/8 ounce, or rig it on a weedless EWG Ned Head, or better yet, finally we are around to talking about the Z-Man what do they call it? Just gonna rig this up for you and show you what it looks like and what it does in the water real quick. So I mentioned the name of this hook a few minutes ago, and now I can't remember it. Fish All 3 wants to be in here live with me, and I'm going to let him in. So hang tight. Fish All 3, what up, dude?
Hey, not much, not much.
How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good.
Where do you live?
Say again?
Where do you live?
Indiana.
Indiana. Right on.
Yeah.
Well, good to meet you. What's your name?
Good to meet you too.
What's your name, dude?
Alex.
Alex? I'm Tyler.
Nice to meet you.
You too, dude. Did I just see a comment from you saying that you've only got the TRD tubes out of all these baits?
Oh no, I got the bigger versions.
That
I've done a little bit of fishing with tubes, but not a whole lot. So,
oh, I thought you said you're hesitating on buying the CrawZ.
Yeah, I love crawfishing, so that's no joke.
You do or you don't?
I do.
Well, dude, I mean, there's not much more of a realistic profile than the TRD CrawZ. These things are ridiculous. I mean,
nice.
I've got these in like 6 different colors. Last year, this was my absolute go-to bait. The TRD CrawZ is also 2 3/4 inch bait. It's got so much realism, from the details of the tail to these tentacles on the side, and the pinchers themselves. The only weak spot in these is the where the pinchers meet up with the body. So the more you use these, the more they get wet and they dry out. It starts to get weaker and weaker, and you can see it breaking down. So Z-Man baits will last you, 100 fish per bait. It's insane. But if you've got one of these rigged up, or you keep putting it back in the bag and then you rig it back up, back in the bag and you rig it back up, it will just wear out over time. So just sitting out, that's part of what comes with the territory. So I might have a couple here that have been sitting in my box. You wouldn't be able to see, but the tentacles are about to break off, and that's just because they're old and getting drier. They've got a little bit of a, I don't want to say wetness, but like a coating of something when you take them straight out of the pack, and that goes away after you use them a little bit. So that said, the TRD CrawZ is probably the most realistic profile of all of the baits in Z-Man's lineup, and totally worth a shot. I've got it in like 6 different colors, as I said, and it's a perfect finesse or micro jig trailer. But the newest addition to the lineup as of last year is the TRD BugZ, and that's this guy right here. And it is, let me just break these apart. It is a beaver style bait, where there was those. It's got a very dead action, but it's got just these 2 little appendages off to the side, and then the 2 up top. And as you hop it through the water, these top 2 tentacles want to open and close, and it's got a really unique action to it. But it does have a standard beaver style body, and that is a lot more durable than the body of the TRD CrawZ. And the joint where the appendages meet the body, at least so far in my experience, it's a bit more solid. So in my opinion, these baits are going to hold up just a little bit better than the TRD CrawZ, and I'm going to throw it a lot this year. It was just released last year at ICAST, so it is a new bait. I didn't really get to throw it at all last fall. The only new one that I did throw is not even technically a Ned Rig bait. It's evolving the Ned Rig, the giant TRD. It's a 6-inch super fat stick bait, but it is a stand-up style bait. So I had a lot of success on it late last year, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about the Ned Rig today. So anyway, that is 3 craw and creature style baits. Again, this is the, help me out, somebody. What is the name of this Ned Head by Z-Man? It's called the Finesse Bullets. Okay. Now, what makes it interesting is an EWG style hook for weedless rigging, but it does have a little bit of weight on the bottom of the hook as well, almost like a weedless swim bait hook would have. It's got a little bit of weight below the head. So what it wants to do is sit on bottom like this. It doesn't necessarily roll over to either side, but will stand up like this. So with the TRD CrawZ, it gives it like a perfect presentation of a defensive crawfish. So the standard rigging, like on a normal Ned head, with the TRD CrawZ, it's going to stand straight up, and those claws are just going to go straight up, and that is actually not that realistic. But when you put it on that Finesse bullets head, it's at like a 45-degree angle, and that, in my opinion, is realistic and the best way to present the CrawZ, the BugZ, and the HogZ if you're not putting it on a jig. So that said, I do put them on the Z-Man Micro Finesse jigs, which come 2 to a pack and are like $5 for the pack and are super worth it. It is essentially just a Finesse ShroomZ jig head with a skirt on it, and they're definitely worth a look. So anyway, I'm going to boot you out just so that I can go back to full screen, if you don't mind.
Okay. Yeah, no problem.
But thanks for jumping in for a minute, dude. Thanks for requesting. Thanks for hanging out. What do you got going on the rest of your night?
Probably watch a little bit more of your live, learn a little bit more from different brands.
Yep.
From Z-Man. So
yeah, we're gonna hop onto other baits. I've got Strike King, I got X Zone lures, I got missile baits, I got 6 Cents, I've got Googan baits, and I've got Roboworm. So we're gonna jump through them. They're all just a little bit different, and yeah, enjoy. We'll be on for probably another 20 to 30 minutes.
thank you.
All right, man. Have a good rest of your night.
You too.
Shit, I ended that live for no good reason. Googan next, says J Boogie. All right, dude. Okay, this is my box of non-floating Ned Rig baits. Dudes, I'm sorry that I ended that live stream on Instagram and had to restart it. I suppose it's a blessing in disguise because we had to restart it in the next 15 minutes or so anyway. Gosh, this box just stinks. So, per J Boogie's request on YouTube, we are going to go to Googan baits next. Googan baits, Rattling Ned is the next bait we're going to talk about, and it's a pretty good one, to be honest with you. It's got the rattle in the top of in the tail of the bait, which is unique. There's no other bait on the market that has a rattle in it. I'll go ahead and show you how this is removable. You can just pinch it straight out. This is like a glass rattle, but then that hollows out the tail, which may or may not be a good thing to have it be hollow. It's more likely to float. But the thing about this bait is it is salty, it is dense, and it does not float. J Boogie says, I fish Z-Man and Googan, just started fishing Ned rigs because on California winter fishing is super finesse. That is a fact. Any way to add a rattle to the Z-Man? No. As I told you, the only one that you can really put a rattle in is the TRD Tubes, which is hollow in most of the bait. It's got a solid head for rigging, so that the keeper can hang on to the bait, but the rest of the bait, hear that, is hollow. So the TRD tubes, you can put a rattle in. The rest of them you cannot. So that is what makes this Googan Baits Rattling Ned unique. Kate Stevens, what's up? Sasser TRD all day. Yeah, the Finesse TRD is pretty unbeatable, but this Googan Baits Rattling Ned has an interesting shape. It's got just a little bit of texture to it, almost like a, let's see, what is the Biospawn Exos stick? You know how it's got like individual sections, ribs. The Rattling Ned is almost like that, but not really. Like I said, this is a dense and salted bait, so it does not float naturally. When you rig this up on a mushroom style jig head and you dead stick it, it is going to fall over. And that is what it is. Honestly, listen though, when it falls over, you get that rattle. So it is unique in that way. The rattle makes it a little bit heavier in the tail, and that is just one more reason that it's not going to stand up. But in my opinion, that is not always a bad thing. So the Googan Baits Rattling Ned has a rattle. It has salt, does not stand up. The other one that is somewhat similar to it is the Roboworm Ned Worm. Okay. The standard size is I believe this is a 3-inch bait. And it's got a little bit of texture to it as well. It's got an egg sac in the center of the bait. It's got a tapered tail. As you would expect from Roboworm, it's got incredible colors. This is the Prism Shad. I've also got it in the Tackle Warehouse. Green pumpkin, black and blue is literally green pumpkin on bottom, black and blue on top. And it's a sweet one. So the Roboworm Ned Worm has some uniqueness because it's got a salted bottom. It is dense and will lay flat on bottom, but it's got those colors that really make it pop and stand out. So you're just going to work it a little bit differently than you are a standard TRD or a floating bait. Another one that fits into this category is the Zoom Beatdown. Zoom came out with their own. You can buy these for a bit cheaper than the other ones. The Rattling Ned from Googan is probably the least cost-effective bait. Jay Boogie's asking, I find Googan doesn't hold up well when pitching under stuff. Maybe 50 casts. Yeah, man. Like I was just saying, it's the least cost-effective. It costs the most, and it's the least durable out of all of these baits. Now, Zoom makes this bait called the Beatdown, and it is actually a good middle ground where it does have some salt, but it does float a little bit. It's kind of an in-betweener, and I think this is more like a 3.5-inch bait, so it has more action naturally. It's a little bit narrower in the body than these other ones. Comes in some great colors, and like I said, is really cheap per bait, just like all Zoom products are. So like I said, this is my box of non-floating Ned baits. Got the Googan Baits Rattling Ned. Again, the Roboworm Ned Worm in the 3-inch. They do make it in a 4.5-inch as well, which is more of a Nico rig bait. And then also the Zoom Beatdown. So those 3 baits. I will fish on the Ned rig, but not expecting it to stand up. So I will fish it just a little bit differently. And I'll throw them for different reasons, whether it's in super clear water and I want the colors of a Roboworm, or a little bit dirtier water and I want that rattle from the Googan Baits, or I'm just feeling a little bit cheap or want to try something different, and I'll go with that Zoom Beatdown. I also really just got it to check it out. It's cheaper than all the rest. So this next box is a mix pack. We're going to talk about really my favorite of these baits over the last couple of years. Might be my favorite Ned Rig bait outside of Z-Man elaztech baits in the last 2 seasons. And that is the X-Zone Lures Ned Zone. This right here is the Bass Candy color, something like that. It's more of a clear water, clear pearl belly with a green back with some gold and purple flake in it. And it is an absolute killer. It is a straight bait with a bulbous tail, and it's got a line down the belly and the back for easy rigging. It floats really well. It's durable. It's got a decent scent to it, a little bit like anise. And I like it a lot. So I've got this in 3 colors and have fished it more than the rest of these that I'm showing you that are non-Z-Man. Sasser's asking, braid to fluoro on your Ned rigs? Yes. I do have an ultralight that I sometimes throw Ned rigs on that just has 4 pounds straight fluorocarbon, but most of the time I'm throwing 10-pound fluorocarbon or 10-pound braid to either a 6 or 8-pound fluorocarbon leader on my Ned rig setup. Medium light power rod. Now let's talk about another Ned rig bait which has taken the market by storm, has done really well, is new as of a year ago. Ryan is saying that is my new favorite Ned bait for sure. The X-Zone Ned Zone, absolutely, man. It is a super killer. Jay Boogie wants to know, can you talk about how you would retrieve and use the non-floating Ned rigs? Yeah, so like I mentioned, with the floating Ned rigs, if you really want to get the best floating action out of it, you need to hop it more than drag it. So with a non-floating Ned bait, I'm either going to put it on a finesse jig and drag it, or I'm just going to slow drag it on bottom, or I will hop it and let it sit for a little bit longer than the others. Here, for example, I've got the Googan baits, Rattling Ned on the back of a finesse jig, and it just looks like a perfect size trailer, and you get that rattle. So I find that this bait, the Rattling Ned, makes a perfect finesse jig trailer, and that is one of my favorite ways to fish these non-floating Ned rig baits. Do Even Hunt Bro is going to hop in live for a minute. Let's see if he jumps in. Next bait we're going to talk about is the Missile Baits Ned Bomb. Okay, this one is a little bit different. That X-Zone Lures Ned Zone that we just talked about has a bulbous tail. This Ned Bomb bait that we're talking about right now has a thin style tail, very thin tail. Just posted a picture of this on my Instagram the other day, and it is sweet. So this has a tapered body, a solid kind of squared off head. So this guy's not jumping in on Instagram. I'm just gonna boot him back out. Ryan is saying to use mono on your setups. Keep them pinned better. You know, to each his own. But when throwing light line and fishing near the bottom, I prefer fluorocarbon. So no biggie. I don't think you're wrong in throwing mono whatsoever. So the Ned Bomb, like I said, has this super thin tail and has a really erratic action. When you hop it, it does stand up, but this tail wants to wag and do its own thing. And because of it, it does not go in a straight line. So when you hop it, it's going to want to move all around more than the rest of these baits. And so that X Zone Ned Zone is more of a standard Ned Rig bait, and this Ned Bomb by Missile Baits is just a little bit different in the way that it hops around. Now, it is not like a swim bait tail whatsoever. It's not a paddle tail, but look at these color patterns that they've come out with recently. This is called the baby bass tail, and they've made some of these color patterns where the body and the tail rather, have contrasting colors. So I think that's actually really cool. Awesome idea. Jay Boogie says, love fluoro for Ned rigs. Also use it on a drop shot. Absolutely. Which bait are you talking about? Ned Zone or Ned Bomb on a drop shot? You can throw most of these baits that we're talking about, especially the floating ones, on a drop shot. So Ryan and Isaac and Sass still in here. Isaac says he thinks fluoro is the way to go. No big deal. Ever use creature and cross style baits on the Ned? Yeah, man, I talked about 3 of them not long ago. The TRD HogZ, CrawZ, and BugZ. And we're going to talk about one. I guess we can talk about it right now because the last 3, well, not the last 3, but the next 3 that I want to talk about are the new Strike King Ned baits. So here is the Strike King Rage Ned Bug. And this has an interesting profile. The Rage Bug, it's got these appendages on the side that you have to separate, and the tail, the claws that you have to separate. But it has a thin body. Now they also just released the Rage Baby Bug, which, for the sake of comparison, I will show you, because it is just about the same size, but it is different. What's up, Base B? All 999. Here, right here, is the Baby Rage Bug, which, just like you'd expect out of the Rage Bug, does have more of a beaver style body. It's wider in nature, but it's got those side appendages and the kicker tails. Now, the Ned Bug has those same appendages and claws, so very similar design. It just doesn't have the antenna coming off of the head, but it's got a much narrower body. So it is more of like a stick style, Ned style bait, and it is buoyant, unlike the Baby Rage Bug. So the Rage Ned Bug is a really cool bait, new for this year. Show you what it looks like rigged up. God, I shouldn't put it on this hook. It's gonna wreck it. And I'll be honest with you, these Strike King Ned baits are a little bit expensive straight out of the gate. For whatever reason, Strike King just priced them a little bit wrong. The they're more expensive than the other Rage Tail products. And cool thing is, I called Discount Tackle out on that, on their Strike King prices in general, and they discounted all of their Strike King products, got their prices right, and those include these new baits put out for 2020 by Strike King. And so you can get these new Ned Rig baits by Strike King cheaper on discounttackle.com than anywhere else on the market right now. Instead of $6.99 a pack, you're paying, I don't know, I think it's $5.59. So definitely worth a look. If you are interested in any of these Strike King Ned Rig baits, definitely go to Discount Tackle to check them out. Isaac is saying you should try the Live Motions Drop Dead Craw on the Ned Rig. Honestly, the Live Motion baits I don't have any of, but I have considered before. I don't know how well that brand is doing at the moment, but I haven't really given it a fair shot. J Boogie also used the 2.75 TRD on a drop shot. Haven't got a hit yet. If you keep fishing it, you will get a hit on it. But honestly, a lot of those other ones that we talked about, like the TRD MinnowZ in particular, that has that minnow profile and no salt in it and a little bit of a tail on it, is going to do a lot better on a drop shot than the standard TRD. But you could throw the TRD CrawZ, TRD BugZ, really any of the TRD baits on a drop shot, and they're going to excel. Isaac says, not too good, but I love their craw. I assume you're talking about Live Motion, and that's cool. So, next bait on the list is the Strike King Ned Ocho. Or, sorry, that's going to be the last one of the bunch that we talked about. This is the Ned Cutter Worm. Rage Ned Cutter Worm? Shit, I don't know what it's called. My bad. But this is a 3-inch bait that is essentially just a downsized version of the Rage Cutter Worm, which is a killer bait, by the way. I don't know if you guys throw swimming worms, cutter worms. Obviously, the most classic is the Zoom Ultra Vibe Speed Worm, but slightly fatter and slightly more effective bait is the Rage Tail Rage Cutter Worm. And it has that classic Rage Tail flange on the back and a little bit thicker of a body on it than the UV Speed Worm by Zoom. And it's also got that coffee scent, and it's a killer bait. And it has been a killer bait ever since it's been on the market. So I think Strike King and Rage Tail were actually really smart to come out with this bait, which is not just a cut down version of the same bait. I looked into that the second that I picked these up, and this is a seriously downsized version, not just cut down, but the tail is much smaller, the body is much narrower, and this floats where the Rage Tail Cutter Worm does not. So there's very little salt in this thing. It will stand up on bottom, and that tail will do its thing, but then at the same time, you can swim this bait, and it will have some awesome action. So there are not very many swimming Ned baits on the market right now. And I actually have this rigged a little bit wrong. I have been told that having the tail down on a cutter worm is really the best way to go. So this right here would be how you do it. And now the color is such that the tail is going to be sideways, right? It's got that darker top, lighter bottom, with the tail sideways. So it's almost like they poured it. The Rage Ned Worm is a sleeper of a new bait that just came out last year at iCast. And I think it's going to be an absolute killer on more of a swimming type of retrieve. Sasser saying, just cut down your Rage Cutter. Didn't even know this bait existed. Yeah, like I said, it is very different than just cutting down a Rage Cutter worm. This is skinnier, and the tail is about half the size. So this can stand up, and the tail is just going to wag in place. If you try doing that with a Rage Cutter worm, the tail is so big and heavy that the tail itself is going to make the bait fall over. But the bait is also pretty thick and salted, so it does not float. I looked into that specifically, and will tell you that you're going to put it in a totally different category of non-floating Ned baits if you try to fish a Rage Cutter worm cut down. And it's weird because if you look up videos on YouTube and otherwise and try to do research about the Ned Rig, even a lot of pros have it wrong in still thinking to this day that you can take a Senko or a Yum Dinger or any old stick bait and chop it in half, and that it's going to be just as effective as a saltless floating bait like the Ned Rig has become so famous for. That is not true. The Ned Rig is a do-nothing bait, and one with no salt and more buoyancy is going to have more action and get more bites, and that is just a true fact. So keep that in mind when fishing the Ned Rig. Coop Munson, have you had any luck using swim baits here in Colorado? Yes, dude. Thought about getting into and throwing them. Yeah, man. I mean, do you see all of these swim baits? I've got like 12 of them rigged up right here that are all in the 5 to 7 inch range. And I've got a bunch of hard swim baits and a bunch of big swim baits that I'm going to get into this year. This is the 9-inch Megabass Mag Slow. Got the 7-inch Spark Shad, the 6-inch Mag Draft Freestyle, the Optimum Boom Boom, which is a 6-inch. Got the Kitech Swing Impact Fat in the 6.8 inch. So, yes, man, I don't care where you live. Bass from 2 pounds to 10 pounds will eat swim baits, even 7 or 8 inch baits. Okay, sorry for the rant. Last bait we're talking about is the Ned Ocho from Strike King. It's same deal here as what you just mentioned, my man. Sass, let me just say, if you take a Strike King Ocho and you cut it down, it is not the same as this Strike King Ned Ocho, okay? The Ned Ocho does not have salt in it. It is a high floating bait. This right here is the Morning Dawn color, and it does stand up pretty well on its own. Just like the Ocho, it is octagonal, has a bunch of sides to it, bunch of detail, has this narrow tip. Sorry, I hear some movement upstairs, and I'm wondering if that is my dog or one of my daughters. So hopefully I don't have to hop off here immediately. But the Ned Ocho does not have salt in it and is definitely worth a look. All 3 of these Strike King baits that were released last year at the Bassmaster Classic, the Ned Ocho, the Rage Ned Worm, and the Rage Ned Bug, are all really surprisingly awesome baits. Recommend you check them out. And one more time, we'll recommend that you check them out at discounttackle.com. Okay, there's 11 people in here on YouTube watching, and most of you have been in here for a while now. Hit that thumbs up button for me if you haven't already. We've got 6 thumbs up at the moment. Last one we're going to talk about right now, unless you have others that you'd like to talk about, is the new 6 cents Ned Fry. Okay, This is a 4.6-inch bait, and it's made just a little bit differently than the rest. It's got a flat back, as you can see. That light is bouncing off of it, and a rounded or a flat belly and a rounded back with all these ribs on it. Let me show you a little bit more up close so you can see what I'm talking about. And it is a durable plastic, does not stretch much, and it has very little salt in it. This is a buoyant stand-up style bait, and because of its large size, which is much bigger than the typical Ned bait that you would see on the market these days. Good morning. Another international homie. Thank you for jumping in. Good morning. Where are you watching from? Sasser wants to, he says, can you give us a tour of your tackle wall? Yes, I will do that in 1 minute right when I finish this. So the Ned Fry from 6 cents, like I said, is a durable, high-floating, saltless, soft plastic. Has a flat side to it, so you could rig it on a drop shot with the flat side down, and it do well like that. But in my opinion, this is going to excel in 2 applications. 4.6-inch without cutting it at all. Put a nail weight in the bottom, in the head of it. Put a O-ring in the middle, and put a circle hook. Rig it wacky style, and fish it on the Nico rig. Okay. Now, this does not have as much action as a lot of other baits on the market that I would recommend for the Nico rig, which we will talk about another day because there are about another 10 baits or so that I would talk about when we're discussing fishing the Nico rig specifically. But due to its size and its stand-up nature, I think the Ned Fry from 6 cents is a great bait for the Nico rig. Stand-up baits tend to do better for that rig. There are some baits that have been made specifically for the Nico rig, like the Daiwa Yamamoto. I don't even know what it's called, but it's like the Nico Fat, right? It has Nico in the name. I've even got a pack of them. And just like you'd expect from Yamamoto, it has a ton of salt in it, and it doesn't float. So the second you stop it, it starts to fall over. You have to work it a lot. It wants to fall down. And in my opinion, a Nico rig is going to do best when you can let it sit, work it, let it fall, and sit. Let the fish come to it, inspect it, work it, and then they chase it and eat it. So something to keep in mind. Other thing you can do is chop this almost in half. It's 4.6 inches. If you chop 2 inches off of the bottom, you're left with a 2.6-inch bait, and that is almost a perfect size Ned rig bait. Rig that on a standard mushroom style Ned head, and it's stiff enough and buoyant enough that it's going to make an awesome Ned rig bait. Okay, so as a 4.6-inch bait, I think it's a little bit too big to be a perfect Ned rig bait, unless you were going to rig it on, say, an upsized hook. So I don't know if you're still here, Ryan, son of a fisherman, but here's where you could use the Power Finesse ShroomZ from Z-Man, which is a 2-aught hook. And you could throw it like that. And that is not too big, and it's going to fish really well, okay? So you could fish it like a Ned rig or on a shaky head with a little bit bigger of a hook like this. But ideally, I would chop about 2 inches off of it to rig on a standard mushroom style jig head, like a standard Ned rig. Or I'd fish it like a Nico rig. Okay? Going in circles at this point. That about wraps it up. So in review, for those of you who are sitting in here and didn't watch the beginning, we talked about the Z-Man Finesse TRD, the TRD MinnowZ, the TRD Ticklers, the TRD Tubes, TRD HogZ, TRD CrawZ, TRD BugZ. That is 7 Z-Man baits. We talked about the Googan baits Rattlin Ned. We talked about the Roboworm Ned Worm 3-inch, the Zoom Beatdown. Those are all salted, non-floating Ned baits. We also talked about the X-Zone lures Ned Zone. We talked about the missile baits Ned Bomb, which are 2 of my favorite and 2 of the more popular Ned Rig baits on the market these days. Both are high floating, great action Ned Rig baits. And then we talked about the new Strike King Ned baits, from the Rage Ned Bug to the Rage Ned Cutter Worm to the Ned Ocho, and lastly the 6 cents Ned Fry. I think that's 15 Ned Rig baits, and that about does it for this topic. So per the request of Sasser, yes, let's jump in and talk about the wall. Unless you guys want to hear about some of the heads that I use for the Ned Rig, there are a couple that I would recommend that you check out for different baits specifically. Jay Boogie, that's a lot of baits. Yeah, man. He's asking, would you choose the big TRD versus the 2.75 during this time? I'm not sure what time you mean, but for the Nico rig, yes. Not for the Ned Rig. On the Power Finesse ShroomZ, that 2-aught hook, yes. On the Finesse ShroomZ, no. So depends on the application, depends on the hook size, and what you're going after. So let's quickly run through the wall. Up top here, we've got the Castaic Jerky J Swim. Are you still in here, Sass? Are you even still wanting to see this? Up top here is the Jerky J Swim. What up, Travis? Next to it is the Rage Tail Rage Swimmers. Got a bunch of packs of those, ranging from really all of the sizes except their brand new 5 3/4. I've got it in the 2.75, the 3.25, 3.75, and the 4.75. I do like it, but I have an argument against it, and I'm going to keep coming back to discounttackle.com. And the thing is, you can get Kitech Swing and Pack Fats cheaper now than you can Rage Swimmers by buying them on Discount Tackle. So the Kitech Swing and Pack Fat is still the best paddle tail swim bait on the market. Don't think that Junebug is my favorite color just because those front packs are Junebug. I've got it, again, in like all sizes. This is the 5.7, 5.8 inch. And I already showed you I've got it in the 6.8 inch. Only thing is I don't really throw it in the 2.8 inch or the 7.8. But I do throw it in pretty much every other size. I also, next to the Kitechs over here, I've got the Megabass Spark Shad in the 7 inch. This is a sleeper, huge soft plastic swim bait that nobody really throws, nobody talks about because it's not stocked in a lot of places. And then lastly, like I've already mentioned, is the Megabass Mag Slow in the 9 inch. And this bait right here I have not used, but is unique, kind of like the Megabass Mag Draft. It's got that magnet in the belly, but it's got a feathered treble hook, and it's got a longer, narrower tail. Mag Slow. It is meant to be run high in the water column. whereas the mag draft can run a little bit lower, needs to be run a little bit faster due to its tail. Check this out. The mag draft has a decently fast tail, but not a ton of bend to it. So it has to be run at a medium speed, okay? It is not one that you can run low and slow on the bottom. But the mag slow, interestingly enough, is meant to be fished slow and high in the water column. Mike B, what's going on? Okay, we'll come down to the second row. Below the mag slow, I've got some of the mag draft freestyle, what I just showed you. These are just the leftovers from two colors that I've got. This is the nude rainbow, or maybe just the rainbow trout color, and the perch. And this is the 5-inch Megabass Spark Shad. These are the Beast Coast Miyagi swimmers. Guess I'll finish with the swim baits while we're on this portion. It's the Beast Coast Chaos X. It's a 3.6 5-inch, recently discontinued swim bait. Saludo desde Argentina. A usted también. Next to it, I've got the Jackal Rhythm Wave in the 5.8 and in the 4.8 inch. Dude, the Jackal Rhythm Wave is a sleeper swim bait. Sam Moyer, damn, are those all yours? Yes, man, they're all mine. Now check out the Jackal Rhythm Wave. This guy is unique, okay? It has a different shape head, a flat top, and the joint of where the tail meets the body is totally different. Okay, so the Jackal Rhythm Wave, everything Jackal does is high quality. They're more known for their hard baits than their soft baits, but the soft baits that they've got out there, most people don't talk about because they're that good. Here's another one, Jackal Crosstail Shed, drop shot bait. Okay, moving on is the Optimum. This is the Baby Boom Boom swim bait, and the other behind it is the Boom Boom, which is the one that I already showed you and I talked about in last night's video. Just to give you a quick update one more time about this bait, the Boom Boom was made by Fred Rumbanis and has a really unique action to it. It is not just about the tail. Obviously, you can see that tail does not bend over. It is not meant to be run at really slow speeds. It is a medium, fast retrieve, and when it does well, it's not just about the tail. It is about the head going side to side, the bait rolling, and even wagging. It has a very unique action that was meant to replicate the old Bass Pro Shops XPS swim bait, which was discontinued, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, and was highly sought after it went out. It was one of those baits that didn't sell well to the general public, but the pros knew it was a secret killer bait, but it was one of those that didn't run very well. So only 1 out of every 5 or so would run pure, and so you'd have to buy a bunch of them and fish a bunch of them to find one that was just right. But when you did, it would catch the hell out of them. So it was one of those baits that was a sleeper, and because it didn't sell well on the mass market, it went discontinued. And a couple pros, Fred Rumbanis and Takahiro Amori, bought them all up. They went to all the Bass Pros and just bought hundreds and hundreds of them and cleared them out. So Anyway, there are a couple baits on the market to replicate the action of that bait specifically. And one is the Optimum Boom Boom. Other couple swim baits that I have here, the Scottsboro Tackle hand-poured swim baits. I showed you guys these in detail last night. I'm not going to pull these out right now, but absolutely killer baits. You can hop on Scottsboro Tackle or on Tackle Warehouse to see these. I've got one in the 6-inch, one in the 5-inch. Highly recommend them. This right here, I pulled out late last night as well. This is a new company from Patrick Sebile called the SpoolTech. They make the SpoolTech Fatty. What this is known for is a steel leader inside the body. It's retractable. So when a fish bites, this is meant for toothy critters, pike fishing, etc. And just because it's messed up in the bag, I'm going to pull it out. But I'm not going to rig it up, but I'll show you how the system works. So this head and hook detach, and this is a steel leader attaching the two. And then all you do is wind it up, and it brings that hook back up and into the bait. So pretty revolutionary concept here. And this modular kit comes with 3 different tails that you can hook onto, connect to the head, and then you just plug the hook back in, and voila, you've got a modular, customizable swim bait. Of course, you haven't seen it, Ryan. This thing was brand new last year. SpoolTech is a new company, kind of under the radar. Like I said, owned by Patrick Sebile. If anything, maybe you've heard of a Band of Anglers, which makes a unique swim bait, a tailspin lure with a plastic like elaztech called Hyperlastics. And the lure is called the Dart Spin. And it's a pretty nifty little bait. So Patrick Sebile is known for lure innovation, and those are a couple new ventures of his. So SpoolTech and a Band of Anglers are ones to check out. Next, we've got the River to Sea D-Walker. This is another newly re-released bait, I should say. River to Sea has done this a little bit in the last year or two in re-releasing some of their baits. And thought I had one of these out, but all right, here it is. The tail's all messed up because it's been sitting out and it's been rigged a number of times, but here's the D-Walker. It's got a unique head shape. It's designed differently than other swim baits, almost upside down, where it's got a fatter bottom and flatter bottom and kind of a narrow top. Triangular shape, in fact. And it's got this really skinny tail, which, like I said, gets messed up if it's out of the package. So cool thing about the shape of this is it's got a very different action to it. And Tactical Bassin has showed this in one of their videos recently, but when it comes through the water, it actually has this like jumping motion. Like it doesn't just run true and wag. It is like up and down, up and down. So really unique swim bait there. I had no idea what I was getting myself into in getting them. Just saw it was released and decided to pick it up. Okay, now on the bottom row here that you can't see, I've got tubes, Strike King coffee tubes, and the Berkeley Havoc Smash Tubes. I've got 3 packs of these, a couple packs of the Strike King Coffee Tubes. Those are some of my go-to tubes. And then I've got 3 packs of the Berkeley Havoc Pit Bosses, ranging from the pop-up Pit Boss to the regular to the Pit Boss Junior. Okay, now let's start in the middle range here. I've got some Kitech baits. Salty Core Tube is a sick bait. Not sure who's still in here. Sass left, man. Anyway, if you guys are still liking this, let me know. If you want me to stop, I can stop. But I've got the Salty Core Tube in 2 different sizes. It comes in the 3.5 and the 4.75. I've got the Kitech Crazy Flapper in all 3 sizes, ranging from 2.75, 3.6, and 4.4. I've got the Rage Tail Structure Bugs and the Magnum Rage Bugs. And then next to them, I've got Reaction Innovations. This is the Man Bear Pig in the Warmouth color, and the Spicy Beaver in a couple colors. And then I've got all my Z-Man baits. So just quickly run you through the names of them. I got the TRD CrawZ, TRD BugZ, TRD HogZ, TRD TicklerZ, TRD Tubes. The Easy Tubes down below. The Trick Shots, which is a drop shot bait. The TRD MinnowZ. The Finesse Shads, another great drop shot bait. The Diesel Minnows in the 4-inch. The 9-inch Grubs, the Diesel Minnows in the 5-inch. The Diesel Minnows in the 7-inch. The Giant TRD. The Mag Fatties. The Palmetto Bugs. And behind it are the Boar Hogs. Finesse TRDs down here. Got the Hard Leg Frogs. And then down below I've got the Strike King Zero and Strike King Baby Z2s. So that is what's on the wall. That does not make up all of the soft plastics that I have. I still have a bunch in these boxes to my sides. And we went through some of those last night. And we can talk about those more at another time. No Diggity, what's up? Isaac, what's up? So there's just a few people here on Instagram, still 9 people on YouTube. 7 thumbs up. If you have not left a like on this YouTube video already, do me that solid. We are here in the last few minutes, about to wrap this up. Ask me questions if you've got any. Otherwise, I'm going to dip out of here in a minute. I'll show you what the Warmouth color of the Man Bear Pig looks like. I doubt it's going to show up well on the video, but the Warmouth color is like a little bit of a blend of everything. It's got a green pumpkin base to it, but it's got some lighter hues of green. It's got some blue flake in it. It's got some gold-ish copper flake in it. And so it's like green, almost like a dirty watermelon on one half, and then like a brownish green on the other half. It is a sweet, sweet do-everything color. The other bait that I've got that is like that I think you can fish in almost any condition is the Strike King Rage Bug in the chameleon color. You've probably seen me talk about this before, but boy oh boy, you get like a peanut butter and jelly almost on one side, where you get brown and blue, and then on the other side some of that blue bleeds in, but you get more of like a watermelon red on the other side. And it is like just an ideal combination of multiple colors in one bait. and in the water it looks magnificent. So chameleon and warmouth are two colors in these baits that if you don't already have, you might as well check out and throw into your arsenal. Ask me a question or two, or I'm going to dip out of here, homies. I don't even know if I'm still recording over on YouTube. Nobody's left a comment in a minute. And by a minute, I mean about 20. Jay Boogie's just held it down, leaving all these comments. And I can't pull up on YouTube like I've got on Instagram and see who's actually in here and watching right now. Dude, hey, if I could delete your comment right now, I totally would. That's not cool, man. Come in here and wave. And you say that. Isaac's asking, what's your favorite craw? Dude, I've got a lot of craw baits, but probably is the Rage Tail craw bait. The other ones that I throw on a pretty regular basis are the Rage Tail Menace Grub. I do kind of like the Rage Craw, but I feel like it's less versatile. Really needs to be thrown in the summer in warm water. And so I don't fish it when the water's cold. And in Colorado here, that means I don't fish it in the spring or the fall or the winter. It's only a couple months where I will fish it. The Biospawn Vile Craw is an awesome bait. Really like that one. The Googan baits, Kraken Craw is pretty good. But the Zoom Ultra Vibe Speed Craw is definitely a go-to for me. So I'd say between the Zoom Ultra Vibe Speed Craw and the Rage Tail Structure Bug are probably my two favorite craw baits. What about you, Isaac? Hey, now you're saying sorry. All right, I appreciate it, but don't say stuff like that in the. Nice jacket, you say? What is it? I don't even know what you're saying. You like my sweater? Damian Bellows, are you going to rig your mag slow weedless? No, man. How would you even do that? The mag slow is pre-rigged with a feather treble on the bottom, okay? Pre-rigged. How would you rig it weedless? The mag draft, I do rig weedless almost exclusively. You could rig it line through with the treble hook, but I choose not to. I take the mag draft and I rig it with the swim bait hook, usually with a bladed swim bait hook, either the Trocar swim blade or the Owner Flashy Swimmer, and I rig it like so. But the mag slow and the standard mag draft come pre-rigged with a treble hook on them. So no. Hiya. Yes, I'm from America, from Denver, Colorado. Now, not that that means much to you. Where are you from? Isaac's saying the Paca Craw and the Craw Fatty. All right, fair enough. I used to fish both of those baits and no longer do. Mostly just because they've got very minimal action to them, and I don't necessarily care for the plastic or those baits. So NetBait makes some good baits, but the Paca Craw hasn't really been in my arsenal for a while now. And the craw fatty is a flipping bait more than anything, and I think it's too wide, too fat of a bait. Ryan's asking, what glide bait do you recommend? Good question. I am a little bit new to the glide bait game, but that said, there are a few that I've got that I'm going to throw around this year more than others, and I plan to start out more frugally. You're from Japan, and you're God. Okay. You're definitely not God, but I believe you when you say you're from Japan. So, 3 glide baits, Ryan. Then I'm going to throw this here. And we've got a little bit of varying sizes. First is the River to Sea S-Waver in the 168 size. This is the light trout. I've also got it in the yellow perch color. That one is the lightest of the bunch. You know, it's like an ounce and a half. You got to have this in your arsenal. If you don't, you can throw this on just a standard 7 to 7.5 foot heavy action, heavy power rod, I should say. Next is the Savage Gear Shine Glide. Okay, different profile, more like a gizzard shad. A much taller bait and a little bit softer of a tail, but it's cheap, just like the S-Waver, in that it retails somewhere around 20 bucks. And it's got a little bit different of an action. So Shine Glider 185, a little bit longer, a little bit heavier than that S-Waver 168. And it does weigh a little over 2 ounces. So you might need a little bit heavier tackle for that. Last one is the Storm Arashi Glide. This is the newest of the bunch, came out this past year, weighs a little over 3 ounces. Needs to be fished on more of a dedicated swim bait rod and reel setup. So I'm going to get kicked off on Instagram in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 if you want to hop back in for this sign up. Go live one more time. Anybody on YouTube still watching? We're an hour and 43 minutes in and about to sign out. Talking about 3 glide baits right now. If you fish glide baits or you have opinions on these 3 baits, let me know. Hey, you jumping back in? What up, homie? We are just a couple minutes away from rounding this out, and we're talking about swim baits. So Ryan asked about glide baits, and why don't you give me some feedback, Ryan? Are you planning on fishing any other glide baits than these 3 this year? Specifically the S-Waver 168 by River to Sea, the Savage Gear Shine Glider 185, and the Storm Arashi Glide 19. I forget what the number is on it, but this is the biggest of the bunch. It's like 3 1/4 ounces, 7.5 inches, something like that. And like I said, needs to be thrown on more dedicated swim bait tackle. I've got a Dobbins Fury 795 swim bait rod and a Shimano Trinx 300 reel. Throwing that on 65-pound braid to a 20-pound mono leader. And I'm going to get myself hooked if I'm not careful trying to put these back in my box. River to Sea, I like, he says. Ryan says, just got my setup, so I'm new at it. Right on. Well, being new at it, I would recommend just getting your feet wet, right? Trying out a few different baits like these ones that are more affordable. You can get all of these on Discount Tackle. The Storm Arashi Glide is the most expensive, retailing at $37. You can get it for 20% off for like $30 on Discount Tackle. I'm not sure. I think the Savage Gear Shine Glider you can get discounted as well on Discount Tackle, though I'm pretty sure the S waiver from River to Sea is not, just due to map prices. So anyway, I would recommend that you try multiple glide baits to just see what your style is, what your preferred way of fishing them is, how you can get success. Other baits that I've got in this box are the BBZ1 Rat 50 and the Savage Gear Rat in the big size. This guy's pretty cool. Absolutely huge. I didn't really fish those baits last year in those sizes because they need dedicated tackle, because they both weigh like 2 and 3 ounces. And the other 3 that I've got in this box are the Spro BBZ1 6-inch hard baits. Now this is not a glide bait, it is a multi-joint swim bait, but at a pretty affordable price tag. I had some really good luck fishing shallow with these baits last year, and really like the slow sink version. I've got this perch pattern in the fast sink that I'm going to use to fish for some walleye this year. Monster walleye, that is. Okay. My computer battery is running low. Ask me some questions. I am fish, says Haya. No, you aren't, I say. If you guys have questions or want to talk about something specific, I would love to. If not, I'm going to dip out of here in about 1 to 2 minutes. So I appreciate you guys hanging out tonight. I don't even know if you homies on YouTube are still sitting here. It says there's 8 people in here, though we've been on for an hour and 48 minutes. And there's no way my connection has been stable this entire time. So anyway, these are my hard baits. Got some soft baits that I'm excited to try too. Specifically the Savage Gear 4D line through pulse tail trout. That's going to be a cool bait to throw in both the 6-inch and the 8-inch. Isaac says, I'm new to bass fishing. Do you recommend a rod? What? Of course I recommend a rod. What are you talking about, Isaac? What rod are you looking to buy, man? Kitty rack. I am, LOL. I figure that means you're still in here watching, just not contributing, not saying much. I wish I could see who's hanging out in here, see what your usernames are, like I can on Instagram, but I can't do that. So anyway, I appreciate the no kitty, Kid Iraq. That makes sense. It's not Kitty Rack, it's Kid Iraq. All right, fair enough, dude. That makes sense. Thanks for correcting me. Isaac says Texas rig rod. Cool thing is you can throw the most versatile rod, like a 7-foot to 7.2 medium heavy power fast action rod. That will cover your base for Texas rigs and a bunch of other applications as well. So It all depends on what your budget is for rods, quite frankly. I think Luz makes some good stuff in that mid-price range. But again, it really depends on what your budget is, and you do you. So, it's a wave. Can you send me a lure? Probably not, dude. If you want some free lures, all you got to do is enter next month's giveaway, which is going to start in a week or so. I do a monthly giveaway on my Instagram page. I am going to post it on YouTube this upcoming month as well. Drive some traffic on both platforms, but I do give free baits every single month, and I've been getting more generous with them as of late. So just had my 5K giveaway at the same time as my January giveaway, and that ended last Saturday. So in another week or 10 days or so, I will open up my next giveaway. But send me a DM, tell me what you want and why I should send them to you and where you live, and who knows, you might get lucky. As you can see, I'm a hoarder. I've got a whole bunch of baits that you can't even see here, and you never know, dude. You ain't care about money. I'm not sure what that means. Ryan says lose for sure. So, yeah, man, probably half of my gear is lose. You know, it's hard to go wrong. I will tell you right now, Isaac, actually, if you're looking for a good deal, hop on Dick's online right now. They're selling the Luz Carbon Fire Speed Stick, which is an $80 rod, and it's like a middle ground. I believe it's made from an IM8 blank, and it has a wind grip top section where you're holding below the rod. The butt is a it's not a wind grip, but rather an EVA foam material, but you get kind of the best of both worlds. You don't need a wind grip on the butt necessarily, but research Luz Carbon Fire Speed Stick, and you're going to find it on sale for $49.97 right now. So sometimes you can find it just a little bit cheaper, but it retails at $80, and right now is on sale for $50. It's about the highest quality $50 rod that you will find right now this time of year. If you wait about another month, you'll find stuff from Cabela's and Bass Pro, maybe just a little bit better of a deal because they've got their spring fishing sale coming up in a couple of weeks from now. But that Carbon Fire Speed Stick, I've got one of them, and I'm strongly considering getting another one. Maybe even in that same size I just told you about, like a 7.2 medium heavy fast action rod. That is a great jig Texas rig style rod. So Sasser, dude, you missed the rest of the wall tour. I don't know what to tell you. We're here in the last minute or two, and I'm about to sign out. So I'm going to sign out here on YouTube first and then on Instagram. Appreciate all you guys watching. We've been hanging out for almost 2 hours tonight, and that I did not expect. We were just going to talk about some Ned Rig baits. Turned out to be 15 of them, and then I gave you a little bit of a tour, and we shot the shit a little bit. So I'm going to pound the rest of this beer. This is a Shock Top Belgian white beer. This is a throwback to my younger years. Used to drink a lot of this in college, and when I got out of college, this is like a Blue Moon, Belgian style wheat beer. I usually drink IPAs and pale ales these days, but this is all I had in the fridge other than a Corona. So anyway, Isaac's going to buy Going fishing tomorrow. Wish me luck. Good luck, dude. Ah, wife was calling. All right, Sasser. I'll show you the rest of the wall another time. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your night. Have a good weekend. If I don't see you again, chances are I will not be on here tomorrow night. My wife worked last night and is working tonight. We're going to do stuff tomorrow night, and I may or may not go fishing on Sunday. So it is dumping snow here in Colorado. We got about 8 inches this morning, and it snowed all day. So have a good one. Thanks for watching. You have the Corona. Yeah, I'll probably have the Corona after this beer in a few minutes. So anyway, cheers, guys. See you next time.